Hello, everyone. My name is Javi Bose, and I am the intern within the Student Leadership Center for this semester. And today I'm going to be talking to you about leaving your legacy and creating an action plan for the semester. Before we begin, I really want to challenge you to think about this quote here by Pericles, who is a philosopher, which states, what you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. So as you think of legacy and what you leave behind here during your experiences at Kent State University, we really want to think about how we can impact others and our experiences and how we can woven ourselves into the lives of others and the experiences that they have, right? So really I challenge you to think about that as we go navigate throughout this session. Today, we're going to be talking about a quick introduction, which we just kind of went through, but a further delve into what legacy means. We'll pull some personal experiences out. We'll have a group discussion, some individual reflection, which is going to be very, very rewarding and fulfilling for you all. We'll talk about some advantages and pitfalls to success, and then some additional tips and tricks that you're able to take with you as a tangible outcome of attending this session with us this afternoon. So why is it important to leave your legacy? So our goal here within the Student Leadership Center is to enable you to become a stronger, more effective leader. And by doing so, we want to implement knowledgeable experiences and things you can add to your toolkit to become a more strong leader, right? And this doesn't look the same for everyone, especially when it comes to legacy, because legacy is individualistic and looks very different. Your leadership journeys are all unique. Your legacies that you leave behind are all unique. Nothing looks the same for a lot of us. Some of them are consistent with others, but at the same time, no journey is the same. The experiences that you have leading up to this very point in your life, in your leadership journey, is important and unique. And we all know it takes time, effort, and diligence. But once you complete that, this is how you can really etch yourself into history here at Kent State by leaving behind an impact for those to aspire to leave as well. And that's really what I want to challenge you all to think about in terms of leaving your legacy. But I don't want to give too much away. We'll go through a little bit more of what that means here in a little bit. But I want to challenge you all to think about that and what this means to you currently, and then we can talk about that a little later. So with that being said, we're going to dive into a group discussion. So for those of you online here, what we're going to do is I'm going to provide 2 questions. I want you to pause, grab a piece of paper, and go ahead and fill that out because this is going to be very impactful. We're not going to be able to address these as a whole group, obviously, but be able to think about these internally is still going to lead to a very impactful experience as you navigate through this session with us. So those 2 questions are, why do you all think it is important to ensure that you leave a legacy for others to follow? And then what are some active steps that you have taken to leave your imprint here at Kent State University? So go ahead and pause the screen, answer those questions, and go ahead and unpause when you're finished that up. Okay, thank you for joining us and coming back after answering those questions. I hope that was very impactful for you. We aren't going to be able to unpack those, obviously, but it's still important to really dive into that self-reflection, which again, we're going to do here in a little bit, but that's going to be more catered to your experience that you've had so far, rather than what you think it is, the purpose of it is. So what do I mean by that? So we're going to do some of this individual introspection. So obviously you're not going to have sticky pads. You can use that same piece of paper, just draw a line. This time there's going to be 5 questions. So go ahead. You don't have to be brief in these situations. I want you to be thoughtful because you're not able to share this with others, but that's okay. And that's okay because, again, that self-reflection, that's where learning takes place. When you realize where you can grow individually, then you can start to implement that into your life to impact others, right? So be thoughtful, be extensive if you'd like, but really think about these questions here. And each 5 of these questions, obviously they're not going to be also on the sticky note for you all, but question 1, do these in order if you would like as well. What brought you to Kent State? What led you to be a part of or lead the organization or organizations that you're a part of? Where do you feel your impact is felt within these roles that you hold? What has been your most rewarding experience within a leadership role at Kent State? And then when you leave here, how will you be remembered? And then number 5 question, take your time on that, because that's where this legacy, where this whole session is built off of. That's where we want you to think about. So go ahead and answer those and go ahead and hit play when you're all finished. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for taking the time to answer those. I know that can be really heavy, right? In terms of answering those real thick, dense questions, if you will. Again, we're not gonna be able to share out, but we appreciate you challenging yourself to go through those and answer those internally, and writing those on paper, because when you write things down, that's where learning happens, right? It's also a study tactic if you don't know. So if you're struggling with something, you write it down. It honestly helps you remember those things. And so when you write those things out, you can really portray those feelings that are built up inside of you. And with those questions, especially that number 5 one of how do you want to be remembered, that can be very challenging to answer. And writing out your feelings can be very impactful into your self-reflection and overall learning. So you don't have to necessarily do this, but just think about that in the back of your mind of how that made you feel and how you can hone that energy and those experiences in to implement it later in life to impact others. So now we're going to kind of dive into more of a lecture-based kind of situation, if you will, to talk about what leaving a legacy looks like, and how you can implement some of these tactics into your individual and organizational perspectives to become a stronger leader and more effective. So with that said, legacy comes in a lot of different ways, a lot of different shapes and sizes, as we talked about. But the number one most important thing to think about is the dedication to an organization or group, right? It's not necessarily about how many groups or organizations you're a part of, but it's about the work that you put into them. Like we talked about, it takes a lot of time, work, and diligence to be an impactful leader and to leave a legacy. And a lot of times, if we are in multiple organizations, it takes up a lot of our time. And we're pouring ourselves out into all these different buckets. If we're not careful, we can begin to overwork ourselves. We can kind of lose that impact that we're striving for. And so I challenge you to not only think about, we're going to go through a lot of things here. So I'll try to be brief in some of my topics. I can get a little long-winded, but we want to challenge you to be thoughtful about the organizations that you're a part of and not to overwork yourself. It's wonderful to have multiple experiences because you can kind of get a plethora of knowledge that you're able to take with you. But we also want you to think about when you're pouring yourself out into these organizations, the more that you spread yourself out, the less impactful you're able to be with all those different buckets you have, right? So I challenge you to think about that as we continue to move forward. So with that said, what are some keys to success? I kind of hit on it a little bit in that last slide, but we don't want to overexert yourself. And academics is still number one priority. You can't leave a legacy, impact others, or be a part of these extracurricular experiences if you fall behind in classes. Because at the end of the day, you're here to get a degree. You're not here to be a part of Greek life. You're not here to lead the Black Student Union, whatever organization you're a part of. That's not your sole purpose. That's in addition to this great experience you're having. But if you don't focus on your academics, those experiences slip through your fingers. And then what, right? Your legacy is tarnished and you're not able to leave that because you have to put that extra work into into academics. So finding that work, academic, and extracurricular involvement balance is so crucial to leaving your legacy and gaining your leadership experience. Because if you find that balance, if you schedule out your time, that's where you're most effective, because you can stay on track to your individual success that leads to the impact of others. In addition, find those things that you're passionate about. We've realized here in the Student Leadership Center that passion often leads to success and leaving a legacy because you're dedicated about those things that you're passionate about. So when you dedicate yourself to those passions, it often turns to a positive outcome that you're able to implement into others. I'm going to say this now, and we're going to talk about it later on because it's so important. But we as student leaders, or you as student leaders, must learn to say no. Every one of you is doing enough. You do not have to say yes to everything. I know we want this fulfilling experience and take advantage of every opportunity that's presented to us, but that's not necessarily the most beneficial thing to do, because again, we can overwork ourselves. We can become overwhelmed, and really, again, talking about those buckets, if we're pouring into all these different buckets, that impact is really negatively impacted because we're so spread out. Don't spread yourself thin. Find those things that you're passionate about and put all your time and effort into those. And that's how you can leave a legacy. So some of the pitfalls, it's kind of a little bit of reiteration, but championing 4+ leadership roles at the same time is very, very not beneficial, right? Being that number one person, having to screen all the emails from 4 different areas spreads you really thin and takes time away from the impact that you're intending to leave, as well as sacrificing yourself for the outcome of something. When you're having to take personal time to provide an outcome of something, it really takes away from your mental health. It really takes away from the time for you to rejuvenate yourself as a student leader and as a student, most importantly. Excuse me. And when you do this, it really limits the impact that you're able to leave. And I know I keep saying impact and leaving that legacy, but that's why we're here, right? We're in these leadership roles for others to fill in our shoes that we hope to leave big. And the leadership experiences that we provide for others, that's everybody. That's why we do this. That's why you're in these roles, right? But when you start to sacrifice things for the outcomes of experiences, that impact, those shoes, they're not as fulfilling, right? And so I really want you to challenge yourself to really delegate some of these tactics. We're going to go through some tactics on how you can for this to not happen. But that's our whole goal here, right? Is to learn how to better deal with these things and leave that legacy that we're intending. So, like I said, we're going to look at the application of knowledge, and we went through the successes and pitfalls. But how can we take those experiences that we just went through and implement that into our daily lives, into our organizational experiences? Plan, right? Organizations, it takes a lot of work to run them. Whether you have an advisor, a full executive board, or whatever it may be, it still takes a lot of work. I want you to think about, maybe it's not necessarily all that necessary to restart an entire program or have to come up with a new idea. Though it's great and very effective, it's okay to reuse something that was successful from the previous semester or the previous year. Make things annual. Don't be afraid to reuse them, recycle them. I do recommend kind of altering some of the curriculum that you created to make it more effective, to make it more experiential for the attendees. But it's okay to reuse the sole idea of something and just alter it to make it a little better. It doesn't take a ton of work. It still takes work, don't get me wrong, but you're still going to leave that impact that you're working without having to start from scratch and have constant meetings to build this program or event from the ground up, which can be very impactful or beneficial. Individually, in my experience, you must prioritize and keep a running schedule. A lot of times you're going to be up early and up late. From all the things that we have, whether it's organization meetings, group projects that we're working on for class, whatever it may be, you have to create a schedule as a student leader and stick to it. Block out time to work on projects and papers and homework. Block out time for your mental health strategies that have worked for you. And just make sure you're sticking to that. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. That's a number one stressor, right? So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not sticking to a schedule, it gets really overwhelming and that burnout sneaks up on you very quickly. And around this time, right, week 4, things are getting busy. Events are starting to happen that you want to attend or run, right? It gets to be a lot. So I just want to ensure you that if you have a running schedule and you stick to it, it's going to help you have a more successful experience. And again, you didn't come to be, like I said earlier, be in Greek life or lead this organization or that organization. You came to get a degree. And I don't want you to lose sight of that, because that's the most important reason why you're here. And without coming to get a degree or going through your academic experiences, you wouldn't be able to be in the leadership positions that you are now. So don't lose sight of that. In addition, we want you to initiate delegation tactics. You are one person. This is a large campus with many organizations, and you might be a part of multiple, right? It's not a one-person show. Utilize the strengths of your leadership team, of your executive board, whatever you call it, whatever the hierarchical scale of your organization is. Utilize their strengths to take some of the workload off of your plate, right? Not only does this allow you to kind of have a breather, right? Because you're still a student, and you want to be the best organization leader that you can still be a very good organization leader by utilizing your team, right? They're your team for a reason. Use their strengths, because not only does it, again, take some of the work off your plate, it also allows them to really get those experiences to find out if they want to fill your shoes when you leave, because we're not here forever, right? So those first and second years that are involved, that want to kind of be involved more in terms of your executive board, let them take on some roles, whether it's making a flyer or sending an email to a collaboration organization. Let them do that, because they can see the work that it takes to have an effectively run organization. And it lets them know that that's something they can be a part of in the future as time goes on, as they continue to navigate through their academic experience here at Kent State. And I told you I was going to come back to it, and here we are. It's the hardest lesson for all student leaders to learn, but we must learn to say no. You can't do everything. I just said it. I'm going to say it again. You're one person. You can't do everything. And I want to emphasize that. Provide those experiences for others to learn how to be a part of the back end of organization work, right? And you, when they're doing that, you prioritize you, right? Prioritize your mental health and the things that are important to you, because if you are burnt out and you're not having that experience, the impact you're intending to leave is not there. You're pouring from an empty bucket into other buckets that need your support, but you have nothing to give them because you're so tired, right? Learn to say no, learn to delegate, and because it makes you a stronger leader, and it makes you someone that others want to be like, right? But you can't pour from an empty bucket. That's when those nasty attitudes come in. That's when those frustrations start to creep up. If you're pouring from an empty bucket, you have nothing to give. Take time for yourself. Rejuvenate, which is one of the most important parts of being a student leader, to then give to others. Okay, that's what I really want to hone in on. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, we're here in week 4. What can you do now, right? Now you can make some of these changes now. You can, if you don't have a schedule, that's baffling. First off, if you don't have a schedule, create one, because it's going to help you really facilitate those experiences and understand, like, oh, I have this today. I need to write this paper today. Just kind of outline that. And then you're going to be like, it's 9 o'clock and I'm done, because you didn't put anything off. You can even put any little TikTok breaks in there, right? Have some positive reinforcement for all the things that you do. But I want to challenge you all to be accurately prepared for the workload and take those active steps that I just went through to limit the overworking, to maximize your impact. And I've said it a lot, that word impact, and I want to leave you with this quote here that I created as I was building this program: is legacy is created through the relationships you build with others during your time at Kent State. It's not necessarily all the experiences, though it's great and creates a fulfilling experience. At the end of the day, when you look back on your leadership roles here, it's about the people you got to meet. It's about the people you collaborated with, or the faculty and staff you interacted with over your time. Focus on building those relationships through those collaborations and working together, achieve that common goal, whatever it may be, and work together to achieve that, because those relationships are built, and those are the things you're going to remember. One last thing is, step outside your comfort zone as a student leader. a lot of times we come into these roles and these leadership roles where cultural norms have been established many years before we even thought about coming to Kent State, right? It's okay to challenge those. It's a new time, it's a new era. Trial and error a little bit, right? If this is going to work, cool, amazing, implement it. If not, that's okay. We'll scratch that and try something new. Be innovative, be unique, and create something new. It's okay to create. The creative mindset is very impactful in not only leadership, but in leaving your impact, because you get to create something that you can leave behind and will look back on forever. And again, what we talked about at the very first slide is that's how you can really etch yourself into here and etch yourself into history here at Kent State. And by doing so is being yourself at all times, be your authentic, true self, no matter if it's in meetings, no matter if it's with your friends after hours, whatever that may be. You're remembered by who you are and the character that you carry yourself with. And just make sure that's who you are at all times. Be authentic, be true to who you are, and carry yourself with pride, because that's most important. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. I really hope this was a successful and rejuvenating experience, and you're able to take some of the things that we've talked about and implement those into your organizations and individual self right away. If you have any lingering questions, feel free to email us at lead@kent.edu. Follow us on our social media at Kent State Leads, or you can contact us at the phone number below as well, and then our website is there. So I appreciate the time that you spent with us today. Again, I hope it was impactful, and I hope to see you around the Leadership Center soon. Thank you.